As a kid, I used to be freaked out by bats. In fact, I remember walking through a bat cave at a zoo and being scared that one would fly over me or touch me. But as I've gotten older, I've grown an appreciation for bats. In fact, they're quite cute. And these cute little guys actually help give us some of our favorite fruits and some of our favorite alcoholic drinks, like margaritas. With my love for bats, along with a lot of research, I'm going to be sharing some information with you about bats. First, I'll be telling you about the misconceptions about bats, the jobs bats have in nature, and finally, the dangers bats face in nature. There are many misconceptions about bats. For starters, most bats aren't rabid. According to the National Geographic, most bats that are captured for testing only have a 5 to 6% chance of being rabid. Since sick bats are easier to capture than healthy ones, the overall percentage for rabies for the overall population may be actually lower than it actually is. Next, bats don't want to suck your blood. Out of the thousands of species of bats, there are only 3 known types of vampire bats, all of which live in South America. The majority of bats eat insects and fruit. According to the National Geographic, most vampire bats feed off of livestock and only can consume a spoon's worth of blood at a time. Next, bats aren't blind. According to National Geographic, bats can see 3 times better than humans. They use their large ears for echolocation, and they use sound waves to bounce off objects like a sonar. Now that we covered common misconceptions about bats, let's discuss what bats contribute to us in nature. Bats have a few jobs in nature. For starters, they're pollinators. Bats help us pollinate bananas, eucalyptus, avocados, and agave, which is used to help make tequila. According to Bats magazine, bats pollinate in the same way bees do. When consuming nectar, pollen gets onto their fur, allowing them to pollinate other plants. As mentioned previously, bats like to eat fruit, and their fondness for fruit actually helps spread seeds. According to Bats Conservation Trust, an organization dedicated to protecting bats, their seed distribution is actually very helpful in terms of reforestation. Bats are also helpful in terms of pest control. Bats also like to eat insects. This is helpful for farmers in terms of protecting their crops. In fact, according to Bats Conservation Trust, bats consume so many insects in certain regions that they reduce the need for pesticides. Now that we've covered what bats contribute to us in nature, let's discuss the dangers bats face. Like a lot of animals, they experience habitat loss, which makes it very difficult for them to survive. Things like deforestation and pollution are very dangerous to animals like bats, and it makes it very difficult for them to survive. Secondly is white nose syndrome. There's a fungus that thrives during the winter time, and it grows on bats while they're hibernating, causing them to use up their body fat and starve before the winter is over, causing them to have white nose syndrome. This disease has killed about 5.7 million bats since it was first discovered in 2006. So overall, there are many misconceptions about bats, and they are very helpful to us and our environment and face many threats to their livelihoods. And while they may seem scary at first, these cute little guys help us out a lot more than you might think. And these cute little guys actually help us get... And these cute little guys help give us our favorite fruits, and these cute little guys help give us some of our favorite fruits and even some of our favorite alcohol. First, I'll be telling you about the misconceptions about bats, the jobs bats have. Okay. First, I'll be telling you about the misconceptions about bats, the jobs bats have in nature, okay. First, I'll be telling you about the okay. So as stated, there are many misconceptions about bats. For starters, most bats aren't rabid. According to the National Geographic, most bats that are captured for testing, okay, editing me is gonna hate me, okay. And since capturing sick bats And since six sick and since sick since six and since six not sick not six and since sick bats since sick bats are easier to capture, the overall population may have a lower percentage of being rabid. Okay. Since sick bats are easier to capture than healthy ones, since sick bats are easier to capture than a healthy one, the overall population. Why is this so hard to say? Okay. According to the National Geographic, vampire bats tend. Okay. Now that we have covered common misconceptions about bats, let's talk about the bats help us pollinate bananas. Bats like to eat fruit. Their fondness for fruit actually helps them distribute seeds and, help. Okay. Bats also like to eat insects, which is helpful in terms of farmers. Okay. Bats also like to eat insects. Okay. It is helpful in terms of protecting their crops. Now that we've there are many dangers that bats face, such as habitat loss. Like a lot of animals, they experience habitat loss, which makes it very difficult. Secondly, white nose syndrome. There's a fungus that thrives in the wintertime, and this fungus can grow on bats. Okay. So overall, there are many misconceptions about bats, and they're very helpful to us. Okay.